Hi everyone, welcome to this week Really Market Update. So, as usual, we'll look into what happened last week and then what happened of the coming week. Of course, a lot of people will be disappointed, a lot of people will be afraid, will be puzzled, will be crying because your portfolio is bleeding. As we know that last week, the whole entire week, the market is not performing very well. It's a so-called bloodbath. So we can see that market actually closed in red on last Friday itself, and Dow Jones is actually the biggest suffer, and it has been the worst week since March 2020. So even though we know that last week there is a good earnings report from those kind of tech company, those big tech company which we call the FAANG company, FAANG, FAANG. So it's basically Facebook, Amazon, um, Google, their earnings report, even though their reports last week is doing good, as you can see from the video, is doing good, is above the analyst report, right? What their expectations, but the market is still in the red path. All right. Like I mentioned before, right? Because this expectation is what the analysts actually expect. They have tweaked it because they believe due to COVID, so they lower their expectation as what I have said in my last video, right? So even though they hit, but it might not be a good sign after all. All right, but ultimately, what causes the spike? What causes the market to go down? There's various of reason. Mainly it's because we know that COVID cases is growing and growing higher and higher, right? And scientists warn of exponential growth. You can see this is actually published on Friday itself. And beside that, last Monday, where Europe country like Spain, declare state of emergency, Italy imposed curfew, which I shared in my Telegram group, asked you guys to watch out, embrace of the market itself. When you talk about embrace, you most likely know that the market is coming down. And beside that, I also share a VIX chart at a point of time. I say that the VIX actually spike up. We know that when VIX spike up, it's not good to the market itself, right? So I say that it's time to watch out on your portfolio. All right, top up your margin account, which I mentioned it on the Monday in my Telegram group. After all, because of all this uncertainty, right, it actually triggered the bloodbath on last week because trader and investor is fearful of their portfolio, right? So it's better to sell, to avoid this kind of volatility in the market before the US president's on the 3rd November. So after all, cash is king, correct or not? So if you hold cash, you can sleep nicely at night, right? So even though for this coming week, things to take note is that we are actually into the new week of the month, so there will be heavy economy data release. But ultimately, right, the limelight is still under on the 3rd of November, the president elections. All right, so I'm not going to share much today, this week, because after all, we need to have a direction in the market, whether what should we buy or what should we take note. Ultimately, I believe the election, whether it's Trump or Biden will be elected, they will actually give us their direction. Where should we be heading to? So, for if let's say today you are a more risk adverse investor, right? I would suggest that do not enter next week, even though we know that the president election is on the 3rd November, but especially after it's been elected, do not dive into the market directly. All right, do not dive into the market directly if you are risk averse. Why? Because it's better to have a direction from the elected president. What is their direction? What is their view? All right, how much are they going to roll out the stimulus? All right, so if let's say you are more averse, wait for them to announce their plan first before acting on it. Okay, so but ultimately that irregardless who is being selected, right, there is also a few things that we will be taking our stand on it. Like we will see that for dollar wise we'll still be in the bearish side. Let's look into the chart right now. All right, let's look into the chart. All right, so for this coming week earnings report for this coming week, I don't think the earning report stand any things or so-called any weight because of the US president elections. But one thing I would like to bring a highlight is actually Baidu. I shared in my Telegram. So if let's say you are in Baidu, then take note on that on Monday. Ultimately, the economy calendar. So we are still the biggest part is the elections, president elections, right? President elections. All right. So let's go directly dive into the chart. First of all, let's take a look at US election poll. As we know that Biden actually stands a higher chance right now, but take this as a pinch of salt because Trump lost to Clinton in 2016. So what? He managed to be the president, right? After all. So just take a pinch of salt from here. So let's start from the Dow Jones Index, all right, the Big Brother Index. So from the Big Brother Index, we can see that this I've charted this long time ago, I think weeks or months ago. All right, I showed you all my view, on the Dow Jones Index. So as you can see, I previously when I charted this, I mentioned that you will actually bounce, you will come down and then bounce within the range, but it didn't. It went even higher, and then right now, after last Friday closing, it back to this range again. So as I mentioned, my opinion, market will have a sharp decline, and it will be bounced within this range until president is be elected. Um, Mainly because of couple of risks ahead, like COVID vaccines, like the stimulus from the government, and also from what is the outlook of this market after this pandemic rip off, right? So this is all the things that we have to put into considerations. Even though I think I mentioned that market will be bullish at the equity side, is mainly because of the stimulus. So right now we have to wait what will be the next upcoming stimulus to actually bring the market to the even higher stage. But at this point of time, right, the come down, actually the drop down is so-called the fundamental corrections. All right, so we know that fundamentally the economy is weak, and it cannot be out of no reason that the market should spike up or recover back to where the post event of this COVID-19, right? So this is so-called the fundamental corrections, not technical. I just call it fundamental corrections. Ultimately, the economy is weak. So right now, I have no stand whether it should go out or go down because Tuesday is coming very soon, 3rd of November. So I will remain sideways at this point of time, and then I wait for a clear direction before I dive into the market. All right, so on next, which I mentioned, if let's say you really want to shop previously, I think I bring out this chart, UK 100. All right, on UK 100, I say if you want to short, you short the weakest. All right, as we know that UK 100, why is the weakest? Because of the pre-exit, right? I mentioned. So ultimately, it broke off 5,800, and then once it broke off the support, it went even lower. So 5,700 will be the I mean the next support I given. So right now we actually based on the FIBO, it touches the 23%, all right, 0.23. So we are weak. What is the next upcoming event as well? So if you have shorted Congress, if you have not, then just keep aside first, stay aside. All right. Next is actually on STI. On STI, I was quite bullish at this point of time when 2005 was supported, but however, right, all right, I say that if let's say 2005 can be supported, I will turn my view to the bullish side, but it didn't. All right, after a few days, it broke off and go even lower. So if it never sustained at 2005, right, next level 2004 will be the next level that we are looking at. All right, 2004, or you will go even lower. So ultimately, all still rely on who is the president for US, right? That is our big brother. So risk averse person, risk averse investor, stay aside if you have not entered into the market. However, like I said, ultimately our view to dollar is still at the downside. Stimulus still have to go. It's a must, all right? It's a must for them to go to launch. Since it's a must, they will be printing dollar. Since they are going to print dollar, as we know, once you print money, you will actually devalue your dollar, right? Devalue your currency. So this is our view on dollar index. For dollar wise, we can see that it actually spiked up for the last 5 days because no printing of money, right? Stimulus didn't roll out, so it went up higher. But I don't think it's so-called an uptrend, right? It's just recovering. So ultimately, we are still within this range. My view still at the downside, it still remain intact. All right, we shall see whether how much will they print once the president is be elected. And the next thing, so the dollar is what we so-called the view intact, who is be elected. So we are still at the downside. Next thing is actually net gas. All right, net gas. I guess I said, can you see that? All right, it's back up. So I have mentioned this on my education video on the, I think it's on the somewhere 18 or 10, if I can't remember, if I remember correctly, on the 18th of October, I launched this education video. So if let's say if you have paid attention to that video, right, this is the opportunity that you should have long at the point of time, right? So I am continue on the bullish side on this net gas. Why? Because winter, no matter what, is still will be coming, right? Winter will still be coming, regardless who is the president. All right. So next, we'll be looking at US oil. All right, for US oil, my view remain bearish at the point of time. I said, right, coming to this zone, this circle area soon, right? All right, why? Because demand not there. Irregardless who is the how OPEC is going to cut their supply, as long as the demand is not there, right, it will it will continue to drop, right? But ultimately, once it reach this area, just watch out and monitor. All right, watch out because winter is coming. Oil is also important, right? All right, things that actually fail. Not all my call is accurate. All right, if I don't have crystal ball, not all my call is correct. So things that fail, I also will share. Gillette, I mentioned $60, right? So this is the worth taking the reach this band. It seems like the drugs doesn't work out and it continued to fall even lower. It broke the 60 support, whereby it's a common support area. Everyone can see that. So right now, uh, just there's no any further view from here. If you want, you can long, but it's an anti-trend, so I don't really advise here. So we'll give up on Gillette. Next thing is actually Pfizer. Pfizer play on rumor, like I say, buy on rumor, sell on news, right? So rumor went up, but it didn't touch our TP, and then it came down. All right, buy call given, it went up, but it didn't touch, and it came down. All right, so ultimately, if you still believe in Pfizer, then you can continue to hold for longer term basis, right? Because we pray for their vaccine to launch. All right, pray for their vaccine to launch. All right, next thing, DKNG, DraftKings is also one of the things that we failed. Uh, Here is our demand zone we are looking at. But it touches, it tried to fight back, but it didn't and came lower because there is news on this kind of shell company. Uh, so if you find out by yourself, there's some news on this shell company, but ultimately this company is a good company. I feel personally, I feel that the model of this company should be workable. So if let's say you're a long-term investor, you might want to wait for this circuit area as well. This is the next demand zone. All right, this is the next demand zone. You just wait at there. All right, so that is of DraftKings. So these three counter is what we failed. So we should move on. Things to watch out. Two counter. First is actually Carnival. All right, why I say Carnival? All right, I actually give a bearish view on Carnival. All right, you see my view. So my view remain bearish for Carnival. So however, last Friday, like I mentioned, right? So on this CDC leave no plans, leave out the no sales order, they are trying to restructure instead. All right, they don't want to permanently ban it. So this give a hope for the cruise industry. But if let's say I'm going to drag this lower, okay, drag this lower. All right, can you see that? All right, so it's a symmetric triangle. I drag it lower. So right now we are looking at this point, $12.70, $12.50 is a good support area. But with this kind of COVID spiking, I think try to avoid this kind of so-called a bearish trend. All right, trade with the trend. Trend is your friend. So however, if you want, you can limber and put a tight stop loss here. All right, so this is on CCL. Another thing which I mentioned is actually exponents. All right, so this is the channel trading. All right, we trade based on the channel. So it's up channel intact right now. Yeah, actually, this is a very bearish sign, very bearish sign. So by next week, if let's say it's not going to bounce back on this support, right? Bounce higher, close higher, then you adjust. This trade is invalid. All right, take note on that. So that's all for this week market update. So hopefully you have benefited from this video. If yes, please share with your friend. That's all for this week. Have a nice weekend, everyone. Bye bye.